close of play of the second day of the fourth and final test between India and England. In Ahmedabad sees India in a very strong position indeed. They're 89 runs ahead with 3 second innings wickets left at 294 for 7. Washington Sundar 60 not out and Akshar Patel is 11 not out. That really tells half the story. It was a very, very tight game until Rishabh Pant really launched an assault on the second new ball. India were 146 for 6 when Ashwin was out after a partnership of 25 with Pant, and that seemed quite a lot at the time. But Pant and Sundar added 113, with Pant reaching 100. He did so with a 6. He was savage on the new ball. He charged Jimmy Anderson's first delivery with it and smashed him down the ground. He reverse swept him for 4. He hit a 6 to reach his 100 off Joe Root before being caught by Root at mid-wicket off Anderson for a very good 101 off 118 balls, hit 13 fours and 2 sixes in conditions that everyone else had struggled in, not least Virat Kohli, who was out for a duck. Beautiful ball from Stokes that bounced and left him earlier on this morning. 8 balls and the Indian captain was out. Rohit Sharma, 144 balls for 49. He felt he was perhaps building up to play an innings like Pant did, which was pretty patient to start with, and Sharma's plan was to play some shots later on, but Stokes had him with a beautiful in-swinger, and the ball did swing around today, so he was out for 49. Pujara 17, well on the front foot, but LBW to Leach, and technology backed that up. Rahane 27, lovely catch from Stokes, second slip. Ashwin was caught by Pope at mid-wicket off the bowling of Leach. Then that partnership of 113 between Pant and Sundar, with Pant the last one out of the day for 101, leaving Sundar and Patel to pick it up tomorrow with that lead of 89. Bowling figures wise, Anderson and Stokes, well, they did really the bulk of the bowling between them. 42 overs they've bowled between them in this innings. Anderson 3 for 40, Stokes 2 for 73, was absolutely worn out by the end. Jack Leach 2 for 66, but then Bess and Root wicketless, and rather too easy to score off from England's perspective too. Certainly Bess, 15 overs, 1 maiden, no wicket for 56. Michael Vaughan's, I can see gazing down his camera at me from his part of the world. It was a really good day of cricket, wasn't it? And it was only that last hour and a half or so that India just galloped away with it.
Well, for 2 sessions, England were magnificent, and India struggled because of the brilliance of Anderson, of Stokes, Jack Leach. We know Dom Bess, he struggled, and I just look at the management of Dom Bess over the last few weeks. I think it's been really poor for a young player.
Yeah.
To be left out of that Test team, having got 17 wickets at 22 apiece, got 4 for in the first innings of that first Test match, and then you drop for the next game. Moeen Ali plays. They know he's going home, and then you don't get picked for the third test, and then you get asked to come on the fourth with everyone talking about and the spotlight on you. He's not good enough, and he's not experienced enough to deal with that at this stage of his career. So, I don't think England have managed him well at all. But England were very, very good, and I just worried that hour after tea, when there was 2 left-handers, Rishabh Pant and Washington Sundar, and that was where the game was on a knife edge. It really was. Could England get a lead in the first innings? They had to win that hour, and to come out after tea and see Dom Bess and Joe Root bowling, and then 30-40 runs to come quickly, and by the time they took that second new ball, it was almost like England looked deflated. Jimmy Anderson and Ben Stokes were tired after the morning burst, where both of them were incredible. The way they got the ball moving around, the attrition of Jimmy Anderson to start with, just bowling maiden after maiden. It really was high-class Test match cricket, but I think in Rishabh Pant, Aggers, we're seeing a special player.
Yes,
he really is a cricketer that I think over the course of the next 10, 12 years, we're going to really enjoy watching. Because
a Gilchrist plus, dare we say?
Yeah, it really was an innings of great maturity. We expect him to try and whack it into the stands pretty much at every occasion. He didn't do that. He just played conventionally, he played cleverly. He danced down to Joe Root, hit him down the ground for 6. I think you're expecting him to do it every single over. Well, he didn't, because they spread the field, and he goes, I'll just hit the 1s and the 2s and I'll hit the bad ball. And it was a really mature innings. And Washington Sundar, he's only played 4 Test matches. At the age of 21, he's already had a few Test half centuries, and he's got them in Australia. Now he's got them in a real pressurised situation against England. So India will be delighted with the way that the day's finished. But as you said, for 2 sessions, it really was high-class Test match cricket by England. It's just that last last session, 141 runs in 32 overs. That's a huge amount of runs on this kind of wicket.
They just seem to blow up, really. I mean, because there's been such a huge effort in the morning, particularly from Stokes and Anderson, and because Bess was hemorrhaging runs, and they did have this reluctance to bowl Leach at punt, although I think Leach is actually a better bowler than he was even in that first Test match, and Punt got after him. And also, well, he's one of your frontline bowlers. Get him on. He just seemed to be left with nowhere to go, and I cannot understand why he brought Stokes on to bowl over 75.
Yeah.
The new ball was so crucial that it was still important at that stage, and Stokes absolutely he was flogged, wasn't he? So, you know, there were one or two things that were quite difficult to work out quite what the planning was.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it, when you go with this formation of only two seamers.
They're a bowler light, but in fact there were two light because of Bess. You couldn't. Yeah, Bess wasn't trustworthy in a way.
No, and that's why I say I just feel so sorry for him, because obviously it's Test match cricket and you should be good enough. And you know, people have said, a couple of weeks where it's not gone your way and you've not played, well, you've got to be able to deal with that. But this is a young kid.
Yeah.
This is a young player that I just think's been treated so badly in terms of management. I always say in management, you've got to look after the person. You know, the player generally looks after itself, and I just don't think they've looked after him at all over the last few weeks. And now they're expecting, and they're looking at him and go, come on, why aren't you being consistent? Well, how can he be consistent when he knows deep down that they didn't want him in the team?
He bowled that first full toss, they got smash for 4 through the covers, and you could just see him go, just sag, because he knew what Root was thinking, he knew what Stokes was thinking. They'd been involved in the selection and so on, and everybody else, and in his own mind he'd have been told, mate,
I've never had that, Aggers. I never had that in my career, whether it was playing county cricket or international cricket, where I never was dropped and felt that the management never wanted me in the team.
Yeah.
You know, this is a young off spinner that knows deep down that they wanted Moeen Ali.
Yeah.
Moeen Ali was the only player of the rotation that was asked to stay on. You know, Jos Buttler was never asked to stay on. Sam Curran, Mark Wood, Johnny Bairstow after Sri Lanka. Yet Don Bess knows that the England management asked Moeen Ali to stay on to play in the last 2 Test matches.
Do you think, and in hindsight's a wonderful thing, and we've both had lots to say about this question of people flying back and forwards, but the Moeen one is an interesting one in that he's come back and he's going to rest and he's going back for the IPL, so I think people will have a thought about that. But do you think that they should have found out from Moeen if he would be prepared to stay before they picked him?
Yes.
It does say, right, if you're going to commit to the rest of the tour, Mo, we're going to pick you, because obviously the impact on Don Bess is going to be immense. But to pick him, play him, and then he flies home, that's been the part of the problem with Bess, I would say.
Yeah, spot on, and we said it at the time that, you know, that conversation about Moeen, you're playing in the second Test if you're going to stay for the third and fourth, and we're going to play for 3 Test matches to get your Test match career back on track, because you're not played for a while, and this is the conditions that we feel that you could do that, but we're not going to pick you unless you can commit to those Test matches 3 and 4. All right, Mr. Selector, I'm not going to do that. Okay,
we'll play.
We'll play. And Don Bess wouldn't have known that.
No, exactly.
He wouldn't have known those conversations were going on. But because, you know, those conversations did go on, and then they played Moeen Ali, and then he knows that Moeen was asked to stay on. I mean, I can't imagine what it does for a young player's confidence, knowing that they've tried to convince a player, the only player all winter, to stay on, and it's the off-spinner, and then 2 games later you're asked, come on, bowl India out in a pressurised situation. I just think it's a harsh world, Test match cricket, and he'll be the first to admit, because he's a strong character, Don Bess, he'll be the first to admit, look, I got it wrong, I didn't bowl well today, but I just don't know how he's going to bowl well with that kind of baggage on his shoulders.
Just looking at the stats, and you can see, you know, the background to this is why it's happened, is that in this series he's averaging 1 full toss every 10 balls. Now, if you compare that to Jack Leach bowling at the other end, he's bowled 7 in 936 balls. This is all data that's fed into databases. People might have opinions on batsmen making balls into full tosses and so on, but he has bowled that release delivery too often, and that's in low scoring matches, which these have been, that's left Root with the problem.
Yeah, and you know, again, you've got to look at a young player and go, okay, what's happened? It's not been great in terms of management, but what can we do to make you a better bowler going forward? And my opinion is the best thing for Dominic Bess would be to come back, play a full year of county cricket. He has to iron that technical flaw that he has, where that left foot goes over and he kind of comes back across himself to get it outside off stump. He's all right bowling straight. I think his alignment is to bowl a straight ball to the right-handers. If anything, he's probably aligned to bowl the ball to leg stump from where he lands in his crease. You know, he's somehow got to line himself up better to be able to bowl naturally half a yard outside off stump, a normal attacking off spinner's line to a right-handed batsman. He just needs to go and bowl and bowl and bowl and get lots of overs under his belt, and then come back again, because you looked last year at the bubble, and these players that were kind of ferried around and they had to be in the group because of the COVID issue. Hopefully that won't be the case this summer, and players that aren't in the 11 or 12 will be able to go and play a lot of county cricket. And Dom Bess looks the kind of young player that just needs a full season playing county cricket.
Yeah, get his game sorted out. Virat Kohli, another duck. I mean, it was a brutal ball, wasn't it? Brutal ball.
It's amazing cricket, isn't it? That he's been so vocal about the pitch. You got to remember a few games ago they sacked the groundsman after the first test because the pitch was too flat, and they complained about the ball. Then they win 2 games on turning wickets, and he said we never crib about the pitch whenever we go overseas. And then he gets the ball like he got from Ben Stokes today, and what does he do? He stares at the pitch. It's amazing, isn't it?
But at least he walked off. He didn't wait for a review.
No, there was some good balls, wasn't there? That were being bowled, and that steep bounce. And I mean, I'm sure that when Joe Root was at first slip, seeing Ben Stokes get those kind of deliveries going through to Ben Foakes and Jimmy Anderson bowling the way that he did, I'm pretty sure Joe would have gone, how did we play 4 seamers last week and it did nothing, and this week with the red ball in the daytime?
Well, I think that's a fair question, isn't it? And therefore you can understand England's selection in that the pink ball last week at the same ground did nothing. They failed very, very little. And now a red ball under blue skies, 38 degrees and everything else, it goes all over the place.
Yeah. No, the team they picked this week is the team I would have picked.
Yeah.
I think hindsight is probably as much used in this game as ever, because no one expected the ball to be swinging around like it did and flying through to the keeper. India have gone with 2 seamers and many spinners as well, and you could argue that if the spinners had bowled a bit better today for England, the 2 seamers would have been absolutely fine. The fact is that we're talking about the seamers is really because the spinners haven't bowled well enough, and a player like Rishabh Pant has played an innings that we'll be talking about for a long time, because that was a special Test match innings.
Yeah, it was. Well, at least this game's gone into a 3rd day on this ground.
Will it go into a 4th?
Well,
is
that's
the
question. I mean, how are England going to bat? Can they get their resolve? Can they dig really deep? They're going to be up against a lead of at least 100. One imagines.
They can't be too predictable, Aggers. I spent a bit of time yesterday afternoon just watching them batting again, and they were too predictable because they were dancing down the pitch too often, and that becomes easy for the spinners because you know that the batter's coming. You look at Rishabh Pant. What did he do today? He danced down early, hit Joe Root down the ground for 6. So Joe Root and all the spinners are thinking, he's going to dance down all the time. So they put long on bat, mid-wicket bat, and he just went, boom, I'll have the singles, thank you very much. Yeah. And when you bowl a bad ball, I'll hit it to the boundary. And then when that second new ball was taken, I mean, to think that the first ball of the second new ball from Jimmy Anderson, he knows that Jimmy's going to pull it on a length. So what does he do? He danced down and whacks him down the ground. It was a brilliantly thought Test match innings, because he also had great defence, and we keep saying it, to score 100 in Test match cricket, yes, Rishabh Pant, I'm sure the reverse sweep off Jimmy Anderson will be replayed over and over again and talked about, but ultimately his first 50 came at a Test match rate. It was just Test match cricket played with great defence, just maturity, manoeuvring the ball into the gaps, hitting the bad ball for 4, and that's what England have to look at. They have to look at Rishabh Pant's first 50 runs, which was played with great control, and if they can take a small leaf out of the way that he played, of course they have a chance. But my fear is at the end of a tour, when it's gone pretty poorly for the last 2 or 3 Test matches, when you're looking at a big lead, and it is a big lead on this surface, it could get quite ugly for England.
Let's hear more on England's handling of Dom Bess. Simon Mann has been speaking to their spin bowling coach, Jeetan Patel.
I think they've exhausted everything they had out there today. Look at the wicket, started off really well, and I think it's starting to flatten out in that middle session, and by the end of the day it's started to go the other way again. So look, I think the guys have put a lot of effort in today, probably 100% of what they've got. So it's fair for them to be tired and maybe a little bit annoyed about how the afternoon went, because we were in a position at 153 for 6 to really take the game and maybe even get ahead of the game, but it didn't pan out that way.
Do you have to accept sometimes that a really talented player can just take a game away from you, can transform a game?
Of course, Simon. I mean, that's just cricket, isn't it? Players are allowed to play as well as they are, showcase their skills like they can. Rishabh Pant's in this side to do what he does, like he did today, take games away from opposition, and he did that so well today. And he struck it out of the middle right from day dot. So big applause to him and that partnership, like I said, that he created with Washington Sundar.
Just watching on, I mean, is there anything more that you could have done as a team?
There's always things you can look at. There's always the nitty-gritty things that you can look at. But without being out there, you can't really do anything. Bar just run the game and what's in front of you. So look, we had an opportunity right before tea that didn't go our way, and I'm not going to harp on about umpiring decisions. But look, if that had gone the other way, which it could have easily, we could be in a different state right now.
Yeah, that was the umpire's call against Pant with Dominic Bess bowling. Can we just talk a little bit about Dominic Bess? Has his confidence been damaged, do you think, by being left out for 2 test matches after bowling well in the first innings of the first test?
No, I wouldn't say that, mate. I wouldn't say that. It probably looks like that, but I wouldn't say that at all. He needed the break, if I was being honest with you. I think he was tired at the end of that first test. He was jaded, and it affected how the ball was bowled. Yes, he would have liked to have played in the third test, and we went in with that extra seamer option because of the pink ball, and we thought it would react differently. But look, he was very excited yesterday coming into this test match. He was ready, he was prepped, and look, if I'm being honest with you, it's no real one thing. It's probably just the fact that it didn't work out for him today. I think if he'd got that LB just before tea, we would have seen a different Dominic Bess in the afternoon.
How well do you think he bowled today, or otherwise?
Look, I think there's still room for him to improve, just like everyone in this group. But Bessie's very young. He's still, and I keep saying it, but I do believe it. He's still learning how to bowl red ball at test level, which is very difficult. And he'll be better for it, better for these experiences going forward.
You're the new spin bowling coach. Congratulations on that, by the way. But have you spotted some areas in Dom Bess's game that you could improve technically? You could help him improve?
Yeah, there's technical changes that that we always need to improve on, and there's some things with Bessie that we'd like to get into, the nitty-gritty stuff. But at the moment, it's about the tactical side. How are we going to play the game? We can't get into too much technical stuff with test matches on at the moment. We don't want to cloud him either. So look, he's got this time after this test match to get back and look at that. But right now he's got a job to do, and that's get these 3 wickets tomorrow, or contribute in some way with that, and then look forward to hopefully getting a crack at them to get those last 10 wickets in that 4th innings.
Prakash Wakankar, no doubt, has been enjoying that innings today, Prakash.
Well, absolutely. And I think, Agaz, we've all seen great rearguard actions. But this Indian team is beginning to make a bit of a habit of it. And while that's good at one level, I think there'll be some serious concerns as well, because the top order is not delivering what it is expected to. That being said, take nothing away from Rishabh. I think he played almost like a black and white innings, wasn't it? There was the first 50-odd runs, classical, defending, dour, firm, resolve, and then he just let go. That was a counter-attack of epic proportions. Yeah. And that's why India find themselves where they are.
The way he went after the new ball, I mean, in a way, you did expect it, I suppose, didn't we? But to pull it off as dramatically as he did, I mean, that just blew the wind out. Well, if there wasn't any wind left in England's sails, they looked exhausted to me. But any wind that was left was blown away.
Indeed, it was. And I think, it isn't that the plan. I mean, when you've got a touring side, it's peak summer. The idea is to wear down the attack. You also know that they're probably a bowler short. Yeah. So I think that is what Rohit Sharma was trying. And take nothing away from the value of those 144-odd balls that he faced. Because if he'd gone early as well, remember, it would have been a harder ball, fresher bowlers. The whole game changes. These ifs and buts is what makes Test cricket what it is. And I think today, Rishabh Pant and Washington Sundar, again, somebody who's impressing me consistently. What a lovely innings of 60. You never thought he'd gotten that far, but perfect foil after an early collapse. At lunch, I can tell you, there were more than a few butterflies across the country, I'm sure.
Well, at 146 for 6, I mean, you still feel that India have got the firepower, and that England's batting is obviously struggling against that firepower. But 146 for 6, I mean, that was game on. And you're quite right to talk about, and we've talked about the other day about that top order of India's. I mean, Sharma apart, Well, you have to look at the rest and say they really haven't had much of a series at all, and that's a second duck for Kohli. Great ball, mind you.
Yep. Yeah, well, that's fine, but great balls are reserved for great players, and they are great because they deal with them. But anyway, yes, a second duck for him, another below par performance for Pujara, another failure for Rahane, having gotten himself in, and those are going to be serious concerns. I mean, you can forgive an opener getting out in the first over, that often happens, but for the rest of them, there are some worries here for India to think about as they go forward. For no question about it.
I'm just looking at my telly on the right here. I'm just seeing they're very cruelly but logically replaying all the full tosses that Best bowled today. Root was just left searching, wasn't he? Searching for someone to bowl.
We talked about that last evening, didn't we? I guess when we did the podcast, we said if only Leach and Best can cut out those deliveries, the sort of hit-me balls, then there's a chance. And you look at the bowling card for England, and you can see it's all there for you to see. Best has bowled only 15 overs. Joe Root bowled 14, for crying out loud.
Yep.
And that put huge pressure on Anderson and Stokes. And without them, look where England might have been. I mean, 42 overs between them for the 5 wickets. Hats off to them. Yes, they were tired. I believe Stokes was unwell, maybe dehydrated as well. But tremendous effort for the team. But unfortunately, at the moment, doesn't look good enough.
No. And so, with that lead of 8, but one thing, Prakash, I mean, you've seen a lot of cricket in India. Have you seen a ball swing quite like that at Ahmedabad?
No.
38 degrees, no. There's not a cloud in the sky. I mean, that was incredible, wasn't it?
It is absolutely unbelievable. In fact, we were talking to a couple of people earlier, and I was saying, listen, this feels like you're playing in England on the third day, right?
And flying through.
Yeah.
If you said to someone, guess where this is being played, and you played that first hour and a half, they might have said, the Wacker or something. It's incredible.
Yeah, but that's the point. I mean, Kiran More, who knows a thing or two about wickets and pitches and Ahmedabad in particular, said to me day before that half the square is red soil, and anything played on the red soil, whether it's under-prepared, over-prepared, dry, moist, whatever, the bounce will always be there. And if there's a bit of grass, you're going to get consistent and a fair bit of carry in the wickets in Ahmedabad. And that's what's being borne out today on day 2.
Yeah. And so tomorrow, my old friend, do you think that the series will be wrapped up?
There was a big debate last evening amongst many of us chatting around, and many of them were saying, India's going to get 350, we'll be 350 by tomorrow, end of play, 4 or 5 down. We're going to back through till lunch or whatever on day 3, and then it'll just be a question of formality. I don't think that'll happen. I said India will struggle. We'll get to about 260, 270, 6 or 7 down. That was my prediction. I actually do think, with nothing at all to lose and only pride to play for, this English team and their top 6 or 7 batsmen, led by their captain, have to just find that resolve to hold the line, as you say, and just not let it go. I mean, if they can get India to a point where India have to get about 175 on that last day, whenever that is, I don't think it'll be a cakewalk, I guess. I honestly don't.
Okay. I just wonder, between now and when I next speak to you sometime tomorrow, how many times you'll have seen that reverse sweep from Rishabh Pant off Jimmy Anderson?
I make it about 17,694 times or something like that.
I've just seen it twice more while we've been talking. So there we go. Great stuff.
But wonderful. That's the point. If I can just say one more thing, that's the point, right? I mean, that is what will get played out. But what will not get played out is that tremendous construction of that innings, which was classic test match cricket that Rishabh Pant displayed.